What up, students? We're here with congruence and triangles. So we did a bunch of transformation stuff, and remember, all those transformations we did were rigid transformations which resulted in congruent triangles. Now we're just gonna, or congruent figures, I should say. Now we're gonna specifically talk about triangles. So if you love triangles, you're gonna love what's coming up next, because basically the rest of the unit we're gonna talk about triangles, and then Unit 5 we're gonna talk about triangles. Unit 6. Unit 5 is called triangles and their properties. Unit 6 is called similarity, but we talk a lot about triangles. Unit 7 is about right triangles. So if you love triangles, you're gonna love what's coming up next. All right, and look, triangles are everywhere. Here's a roller coaster. Look at just a bunch of triangles everywhere. So freaking neat, so important to our daily lives. All right, so things to know. You've heard that at some point in your life is the triangle sum theorem. The sum of the measures of the interior angles of triangle. Any triangle is 180 degrees. So basically what it's saying is, like, look at this triangle here. We'll focus on this one. These angles would add up to 180 degrees. And that's true for any triangle that has existed in the past, that currently exists, or that will exist in the future. Any flat triangles add up to 180 degrees. Ooh, ah, powerful. And next we got the reflexive property. All right. We don't really need the congruent triangles part, but for any segment AB is congruent to itself. So remember in Unit 2 we talked about reflexive property about 1 billion times. This is why this is going to be a huge, not a huge concept, but it's going to be a common concept. We're going to see this again and again and again in this unit. All right. So triangles add up to 180 degrees, reflexive properties. So definition: two geometric figures are congruent if and only if all corresponding parts are congruent. All right, so basically it's saying if every corresponding angle is congruent, every corresponding side length are congruent. All right, so in this case right here, these triangles are congruent. It gave us some obvious information such as G and D. So angle G is congruent to angle D. All right. Now I matches up with F, and there's several ways we can tell about that. That's something we're going to practice a lot. And then H and E are also congruent. Neat. All right. And then we got side lengths. All right, clearly the side lengths of 12, same measure, so GH is congruent to DE. Next, the side length of 6, so GI is congruent to DF. And then last but not least, these are congruent. All right, so let's do H. Hi, LOL. HI is congruent to EF. All right, so right now for triangles, there's 6 parts. We need to know all 3 angles are congruent, all 3 side lengths are congruent. 6 parts. We're actually going to dwindle that down, and we'll actually be able to determine if triangles are congruent using just 3 pieces of information, but that's information we'll discuss later. Just a little foreshadowing to get you excited about stuff. And then a congruency statement. We're going to be writing these left and right. In this part of the unit is just triangle GIH is congruent to triangle DFE. And notice how the corresponding parts match up. G is corresponding to D, so they're both first. I and F both go in the middle. All right, so the order of the first one doesn't matter, but it dictates the order of the second one. All right, and we'll be practicing that throughout the unit. So we're just going to practice writing congruency statement. So again, it's all about matching up corresponding parts. So just to be extra, let's not go in alphabetical order. Let's start with B. Well, what angle corresponds to B? That'd be K. All right, so let's just do triangle B. CA is congruent to triangle. Well, since I picked B first, K must come first. All right. Since C is next, what angles corresponds to C? C is 32, H is 32. And then last, and certainly not least, A and J correspond. All right, so that's a congruency statement right there. The first triangle, the order doesn't matter, but it dictates the second order. All right. And then let's just knock out this last part. All right. Let's just go triangle D, E, F is congruent to triangle, well, D, U. All right, U has one arc mark. F, or no, then we went to E. E has 3, T has 3, and then by process of elimination, F has 2, V. So that's it right there. All right, corresponding parts must match up. All right, and then another skill we need to have is be able to draw tick marks and arc marks and match the corresponding parts. This is really gonna help us later on in the unit when we're doing proofs and such. All right, so let's look at this. We got these triangles right here, I and J, all right? First off, let's focus on IJK. IJK is this triangle in beige, and then baby blue is JIS. All right, so we're focusing on those triangles right there. Now in the beige triangle, I is first, so let's just put one arc mark. In the blue triangle, J is first. All right, so those angles are actually the same. Next, J in the beige one, so it's actually this one, and I. So as you can already see, we got some common letters, but it determines which triangle we're in and all this stuff and the corresponding parts. It's actually very important. Boom. All right, so I did it by just doing the angles and looking at the congruency statement. Next, now watch this. This part's very important. IJ. I'm putting in a tick mark right there. Now a little fun fact, IJ is a shared side. IJ is congruent to IJ. This is like a bonus fact. We know this is to be true by reflexive property. Even if these triangles weren't congruent, that side would be because it's a shared side. Wow. All right, and then we can just keep looking at the congruency statement like JK and IS. The last two letters in both of them. So JK and IS. And then the last one, IK, JS. Those are the bookends. They're the first and last letters. Those are also congruent. So drawing these tick marks and arc marks are an important skill to have. It helps us keep our work organized, know what information we have, what information we need, so on and so forth. So that's why we're practicing it right now. All right, it's gonna help us do the complicated proofs by the end of the unit. All right, and let's just do it again, and then we'll call it a video and pick up in the next video. All right, so let's mix up the colors for fun. Let's do toothpaste green, JKL. And then whatever kind of pink this is. I don't know what this reminds me of. Anyways, all right. J is first, S is first, so I know J and S are congruent. So notice how they're oriented differently. All right, in fact, it looks like they're some kind of rotated. Some kind of rotation occurred. K and Q. Or maybe some kind of rotation and reflection. Just notice how the orientation is completely different. And then L and R. All right, and then you can almost just look at our arc marks, like from 1 to 2, 1 to 2, 1 arc mark to 2 arc marks, 2 arc marks to 3 arc marks, or 1 arc mark to 3 arc marks. All right. So this is just really interpreting a congruency statement, knowing that congruent corresponding parts are congruent, and all that stuff right there. All right, this is really just the foundation for the rest of this unit. Okay, stay tuned for more.